Welcome to the Empower LEP and Mind by Design podcast. I am your host, Jana Parker. I am a licensed educational psychologist. I am a group practice owner, and I'm the owner and mentor at Empower LEP. Today, I hosted Mohini Pollock, who is the owner, entrepreneur, and founder of Literacy Playground. You can find her at literacyplayground.org. You can find her on Instagram at Literacy Playground. She was a teacher, and she's created this business where she supports parents working with their kids in reading and writing. So instead of her being the educator with the kids, she actually helps to empower families. And she sends like these packages of books and materials and guidance to families all across the world in adorable little boxes. And she really helps to inspire both the love of reading and writing and also the connection with parents and their kids. So this is a really cool little business that I think everybody will benefit from hearing about and using or telling families about. And I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Welcome back, everybody, to the Empower LEP and Mind by Design podcast. We're doing a little dual podcasting here. I'm really happy to have Mohini Pollock joining me. Welcome.
Hi, Jana. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here today and share a little bit of my story.
Yes. So Mohini is the owner and operator of literacyplayground.org. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But the reason that I introduced this as kind of a dual podcast, being Mind by Design, which is my company, my community-based company, as well as Empower LEP, which is my, virtual-based company. But they have two different audiences. But I think that this is a topic, and I think that your practice spans kind of both. And I wanted to use this as an example of a way of networking, which is part of marketing, and also as a way to highlight you as a community resource. So, and I guess what I mean by that is, when I've told the story a couple of times, but back in 2020, when we had everything shifted to online, for a small business like mine that's community-based, connections in the community are super, super important. And I never felt like it was enough as a person who does evaluations to just say, well, I did this evaluation. I figured out what we needed to do. And now good luck, family. Like, here's your report. Go figure it out. I never felt like that was enough. I always felt like I needed to be able to kind of connect them to the next best thing that's going to help them, or give them a little menu of recommendations for what I think is going to help move the needle for their kid, because the assessment is only the first step. It's what happens after. It's what that family does with the information that is going to be most meaningful and help their student and their family. And so I was always very, very big on connections with people who I thought I could do a handoff to. And when we moved online, I really missed that connection. So I started doing a lot of, Zoom networking meetings, like Zoom coffees. And then I realized, you know what, I should put these up on a podcast. So I made the Mind by Design podcast. It wasn't called that at the time. I think it was called something different. But it was actually even before Mind by Design existed. It was when I had my first company that wasn't when I wasn't incorporated yet. And I started it thinking, I'm going to just take my networking calls. I'm going to put them on podcasts, and then I'm going to attach them to my website and be able to have people find the people who I'm referring, families to, or just on their own, so that they have a warmer connection, so that they feel more connected to the people who they're going to potentially work with, right? It just makes for a nicer transition into working with somebody new. And so I did that. And then, everybody asked to do it was really excited and felt important and just felt like, yeah, cool, let's do this. And then maybe people will find me. So I was just trying to make those connections easier. And so I talk about that to my Empower LEP folks who are thinking about how do I market? How do I, do this? But also like I feel like this is kind of dual because you can talk to us from a person who is an educator turned entrepreneur and what that shift meant for you. But you can also talk to us about what you provide through Literacy Playground because it is worldwide and it's really exciting. So that was a really long intro to like welcome to both the Mind by Design and Empower LEP podcast.
All right. So I guess I'll start with speaking to the people listening who are educators and want to start their own practice or their own business.
Yeah.
I started my business about 3 years ago. At that point, I saw a need, right? I'd been working in schools for a while as both a interventionist and as a classroom teacher. And I noticed that there were too many kids going from kindergarten to first grade to second grade and beyond without getting the support they needed with the fundamentals of literacy. So I wanted to create a solution to that. And I knew as an educator, I could create the right curriculum for these children. I could work with parents and help them teach their kids fundamental reading and writing skills in a fun way that also helped them bond.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with that, right? Like you, I felt confident in my skills as an educator. After that, though, I learned that there were a lot of business skills that I did need to learn. And I think that as educators, we've gotten past the statement, teaching is easy, right? We know how complex it is. We know how structured you need to be a good teacher. But even though I'd gotten past teaching is easy, I hadn't gotten past marketing is easy and sales is easy. I thought that education is all I needed to be good at when I started my business. I knew a little bit about entrepreneurship, but I hadn't developed sales as a skill and marketing as a skill. So I think that, my first big piece of advice based on the last 3 years for me is marketing is a good thing. Sales is a good thing. These are just tools to help people learn about you. Making sure you embrace the business side of things is definitely essential. And that they're actually really positive. Like Jana said, connecting is important if we want to support kids, especially kids with learning difficulties. They need a whole support team, and you need to have relationships in your community with people who you can refer families to, with people who will refer families to you. Like marketing sales in the end is just like communication and relationships, and they can be really positive things. And things that a lot of educators already are good at.
That's such a good point because I think it's one of the things that we feel most uncomfortable with, going from that consistent job and education where you just show up and everything comes and you don't have to do any marketing and any sales. And then you find yourself in a role where you're like, we get a little bit of imposter syndrome or get a little bit of like, oh, I feel like too salesy, but we always talk about how, just like you started out with, you created your business to solve a problem. And you feel really confident that that is the need that you are filling. And so it's not like you are selling it, but you like wholeheartedly believe in it and it's true, and that is what we're all doing, is filling a need. And we know when it doesn't feel right, when this isn't the right fit for a family, right? And we can say, oh, this isn't a good fit. Let me get you to somewhere else. But if it does feel like a good fit, you're like, oh yeah, I got this. Like, I'm going to help you.
Absolutely. Like you are depriving someone from working with you if you're not getting out there and telling people about who you are and what you do.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you grew your social media so well? Because you've got quite a thing going on there.
Yeah. So if you are thinking about social media, if you've started posting on social media and you're not seeing the traction you want, I will definitely share my journey with you. I feel very comfortable. For example, I know that speaking to a camera is difficult for people. I feel very comfortable speaking to a camera. But 3 years ago, I didn't. Like, the truth is that the same way we tell we repeat lessons with our students, we need to repeat skills like camera confidence with ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
it showed up on camera over and over and over again. And it's when I look back at the videos from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they're cringy. I have no emotion on my face, but you have to get through that stage to get to the place where you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also it was posting over and over again that helped me figure out what my voice is. It helped me understand what my best offer was. So for me, I know this is not true for everyone, and was not true for you, Jana, but for me, like, Instagram was the first step for me in building my business. I started posting on Instagram when I was pregnant and when I was at home with my baby. So for me, like, I was not in a place to build other parts of my business at that point, but creating content definitely made me feel like I was taking steps towards being ready to build my business, and really helped me figure out what my brand voice is and what my offer is. Like, it all happened together. Then again, like, Instagram is just a tool to connect. So posting and ghosting probably won't get you anywhere. What you want to do is post and connect with people, like send people messages, send people thoughtful voice messages, connect with them the same way you would in person. Instagram should just be a tool to make it a little easier to connect with people who might not live in the same town as you. And last, I'd say, like, don't be shy of like actually putting money in. Like, once I figured out what my brand voice was, had somewhat of a posting schedule figured out, I did start marketing and putting money into Facebook ads. And that has helped me grow. Like, most people who I know who are starting businesses and marketing on Instagram in 2024 are putting money into ads. And that's another skill that can be learned. So definitely don't shy away from that.
Yeah, I will say you are the only person who's ever voice messaged me like a voice memo through Instagram. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
But it was very personal. I loved it. It was like, oh, like I didn't even know that this existed, but it was a nice personal touch.
Yeah, it's a good way to connect.
Yeah. Okay, so take us now just a little bit through, how you made this transition in from being an educator into what you've created for yourself now, and then it'll take us into your actual business.
Okay. So, that's a tough one, honestly.
Well, what made you, I'm thinking about like, you're an educator, like what is making you take the leap, whether it was, and how did that work for you, whether it was like personal or it like the system wasn't working for you anymore, or you just wanted more flexibility in your life, like what was going on for you?
So, I mean, first of all, now that I am working for myself, I definitely respect everything that like the administration at my school was doing more than I did when I decided I was going to set out and do my own thing. Like, I was definitely a little naive when I went out and said like, hey, I want to do things my own way. I didn't realize how much work it would take. So in retrospect, like, would I do it again? I don't know, knowing the path that I've taken and how much work it's taken. But at that point, when I decided I was going to start my own business, I had a really tough time teaching through the pandemic. I was upset that we were asked to use a lot of online learning programs to teach kids in elementary school fundamental literacy skills and numeracy skills. I felt like children, especially when they came back to school, should be using hands-on materials and manipulatives and learning through relationships with their peers and relationships with their teachers. And after getting through that 2021 school year on Zoom, where we were all like trying our best, like teachers were really soldiering forward to come back to school and then be asked to put kids on laptops and online learning programs, honestly, like, was something that I could not get behind. Like in the last classroom I taught in, a third grade classroom, I spent a good amount of days in the summer organizing my classroom library. We had a great collection, great resources, setting up library expectations, a system for borrowing books. And as soon as school started, we started utilizing the library. And my principal said, get them to read on the online learning programs. That's where we get the data. And for me, she was asking me to do something that I knew was developmentally inappropriate. So that was definitely one of the moments that led to me deciding to take on literacy in my own way. And however, like I've always been an entrepreneurial person and like it's always been in the back of my head that I want to start something. I do think that I needed to be in education for a while to really understand the problem at hand and build a good solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say all of the experience that I got working in schools helped me be better at what I'm doing now, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So then what happened?
So then what happened? So it's definitely a nonlinear journey. Then I got pregnant and during my pregnancy, I was teaching till I taught until I was about 5 months pregnant and then, focused on both my pregnancy and just brainstorming, creating curriculum. I started working during my pregnancy and during my first year with baby. I worked with maybe like one family at a time, building a customized reading and writing program with them, helping them support their kids with reading and writing. And through that process, I learned what worked and what didn't, how to form a more scalable and impactful program. And then it was at the start of this year that I went all in full time into building my business. So for me, there's definitely been a long runway. I do think it's so important to validate your ideas, to test them before you go all in. And I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like you had a little pilot program.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, then, so now what is Literacy Playground?
So now Literacy Playground is a customized reading and writing program for kids in elementary school. We really value making an impact one at a time. So we'll take our time to get to know mom, dad, or caregiver. They will teach us about their child, and then we'll build a reading and writing program for that child. What that means is that we deliver books, we deliver customized writing activities and a weekly routine to the family. And then the family has access to us for a year. So as they're implementing activities at home, they can always reach out and say, like, I did the activity, but my child still doesn't know how to read the word cat. Like I've done it 3 times. What do we do now? And then we help troubleshoot. We provide advice because we really believe in like teaching and learning through relationships. And we understand that most parents aren't out to get like a master's in education. They really just want to see their kids succeed. So little tips from us throughout the year can really help them progress.
Mm-hmm.
We really value accountability, feedback, in addition to the materials that we send to families.
And once you send materials to families, like you send those little books, do those books then belong to the family, or do they send them back and then get new ones?
So they get books for the year. We send them books for the year and then they keep them.
Ooh. Do you have any of your materials like right around where you are?
Yeah, I do.
Show us a little. Yeah. They're so cute.
Can we pause? Can I bring a box from downstairs?
Yeah, I'll pause. Okay. All right, let's see what you have got there in your adorable box.
We've got a literacy playground box right here.
So cute.
This one is for a child who's working on kindergarten reading and writing skills. So we've got decodable books. For our older kids, we do try to get them to read like traditional chapter books, but for the little ones, we like to use this graphic novel. We've got fun little like manipulatives like this one. They can practice reading words in a hands-on way.
Cool.
And I'll show you a couple more things.
For people who are listening, we've got some books being held and then like a little thing that turns so that you can have you can spell words in different ways or recognize words in different ways. Yeah. And then she's going to show us her binder.
I should probably cover the name here, but the binder has some affirmations on the front, and then we create a weekly routine so parents know exactly what activity to do with their kids every day. And we have a bunch of other resources, packets, word lists in there. For each child, it's a little different. But I guess the main point is that parents know exactly what activity to do with their kids every day. They don't have to prep. It's open and go.
Yeah. And what is like kind of what kinds of kids are you looking for this kind of program? Because obviously it's not like they're seeing an interventionist. This isn't like, a kid with severe dyslexia is probably not only going to do your program, but tell us about who is finding benefit from this. What kind of kids?
Yeah, so the kids who are finding benefit from our program are kids with mild learning difficulties, like mild dyslexia, mild dysgraphia, mild ADHD. Like we wish there was a Mind by Design everywhere, but there's a lot of places where there aren't, right? We are working with a family in the United Arab Emirates and outside Dubai, so in a more rural part of the United Arab Emirates, and mom is currently training so that she can screen her child for dysgraphia. And we're providing her with a structured system for supporting him with skills like handwriting and spelling and writing in an organized way. So there are kids who are not able to access diagnosis, assessment, and specialists. We help their parents get started with reinforcement at home. Because in the end, like children with learning difficulties often need a system and structure and someone with experience who can individualize activities for them.
Right.
So we can make a lot of progress through our program in areas that may not have the kinds of resources that we have here in the Bay Area. In terms of families we've served locally, we've served families of kids who did not get into the TK program. So that has been a theme. Like the kids didn't qualify for TK and mom wants to support them with literacy skills before they start kindergarten. So that's something we've seen locally. And for the other groups we've seen, kids who are doing pretty well with reading, but never really got the support with writing that they needed in elementary school. That's been a theme like locally as well. Like, oh, my kid's like great at reading, doing pretty well in math and science, but like cannot write an organized essay or paragraph. So really just helping them write essays and long form texts in an organized way.
Mm-hmm. And so you set up a family, you have an intake call, you figure out what the needs are, then you build a kit for this child and family for the year. And how do you know? And then they have access to you throughout the year. Do you do any like scheduled coaching throughout the year, or they reach out as needed?
Yeah, so the way it works is that we check in with each family about twice a week.
Oh, gosh.
So we have a pretty concrete idea of what the family's working on through the week. And for the first month, we're pretty involved, trying to make sure the family is showing up and doing the activities. We keep track of things the way you would in a classroom, like binder. We're keeping track of every writing assignment in the binder, tracking progress through that. And parents are submitting written work to us. They're sending a photo of their child's written work every 2 weeks to us. So, we evaluate progress the way we would with our students in a classroom. I think that a lot of the data that gets collected at schools doesn't just have to do with the kids. It also has to do with like fundraising and like grants and all sorts of other things. So when we're working like with a family outside the school system, if mom's seeing progress, like mom's seeing progress, and if she's not, then we try another intervention, we try another type of activity, and we see where that goes.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. What kind of feedback, like what are some like amazing feedback things you've gotten from families? You share a couple, like, I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm sure you have some.
Yeah. One of the small wins that we see families of brand new readers have is that their kids will suddenly get like excited about reading when we provide them with like a variety of engaging books, because maybe they've only like seen Bob books before, or only seen like the same series of decodable readers over and over again. So we've definitely had like little kiddos like suddenly start saying like, oh, I like this. I want to read with my mommy, because we curated books that are slightly aligned with their interests. Recently, we had a child whose mom thinks he has signs of dysgraphia. Like they haven't done a screening yet, but we provided him with like structured writing activities, and he told his mom that he wanted to write a book after he did that. So sometimes our kids are just falling through the cracks a little bit and they need some one-on-one attention. It can go so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And like for you now as an entrepreneur and in doing this business and seeing how it's gone over the course of this year, like where do you see yourself going like next year, and what kinds of like, how do you find your life, I guess, as, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about sales and marketing. What we're honestly really focused on right now is operations.
Mm-hmm.
So since we are delivering like boxes of customized materials, we see like now that I've got the marketing pillar figured out, I have to figure out how to deliver. So
Yeah.
for me, like that's what I'm focused on right now. How do I deliver more in terms of where do I see us going next year? The traction we've gotten in the last few weeks has been really amazing, and I see us growing a lot. And just, I think that in the early stages, there was always a question mark. Like, am I going to go back to work? Is this really going to work? Should I be doing one-on-ones instead? I did go through a phase at the start of this year where I was trying to build this business and I was also doing one-on-one intervention, and it was not working. I was like, oh, I'm like I cannot actually do these things and parent a toddler at the same time. Like I have to pick one.
Right.
So for me, that was hard because that meant saying no to an easier flow of income. Like it was not too hard to be like, hey, I have classroom teaching experience, master's of education. I can support your child with reading and writing one-on-one. Selling like, I think you can support your child with reading and writing through simple activities is much harder and has required a lot more from me. But yeah, I did make that difficult decision at the start of the year to focus on this business. And now that I'm seeing traction, it's really exciting. And we definitely have big goals for next year. Like, just feeling like an established business, is where it starts. Like, it's a great feeling to feel like, hey, I've built this and it's growing. And I think the next step is building team. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck. Cause it is it's a journey itself. Yeah. But yeah, that's what happens. It's like you have this great service and then you have demand and then you have to decide like, am I going to grow this team? So
yeah, there's different problems at each stage that you have to solve, right?
Yep. It's a never ending learning journey. Okay, well, so how do families and other educators and psychologists who want to access you, how do they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Literacy Playground. You can learn more about what I do on my website at literacyplayground.org. And if you want to get in touch on email, then you can email me at hello@literacyplayground.org. If you are a educational psychologist, speech language therapist, reading specialist, anyone who wants to connect, please email me or DM me. I'd be really excited to start a conversation with you.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, Mohini, it's been such a pleasure. I'm really happy to be connected to you as a community partner. You're so close to me, but I also love that you are just everywhere and can be literally across the nation, or not even across the nation, across the world. I think it's amazing what you're doing. And so congratulations to you. And yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that children need a lot of support right now in 2024, and they need interventionists, they need reinforcement. I think that everyone who's within this community of educators, if you have an idea and you want to support families outside of a school system, you want to build your own business, then go for it, because families really need you and they'll be happy that you're out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People just have to find you, right? And
yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on both the Mind by Design and Empower LEP podcast. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Jana.
This episode of the Empower LEP podcast is brought to you by one of my newest trainings on the Empower LEP platform, How to Network and Grow Your Business. This was one of my favorite trainings to record because it's one of my favorite things to do. And while this may not be one of everyone's favorite things to do, networking is absolutely essential for growing your practice. So we are going to talk about all things networking in this course. It is self-paced. You can get it on empowerlep.com. Thank you for listening to the Empower LEP podcast. Episodes can be found at empowerlep.com. If you liked what you heard, please leave a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to connect. I would love to learn more. I can be found at jana@empowerlep.com.